My name's Kevin Branford. I am 42 years old. I was born in Colorado Springs, right here. Born and raised in the house that this climbing wall is in. I started climbing in 1991. I got into climbing, I live right by the Garden of the Gods. I was always exposed to climbing if we drove through the park. And so I kind of knew what climbing was all about. But this one day, I was 11 years old, I was up the hill riding my mountain bike, and I ran over a piece of climbing gear. And I picked it up, and I thought, okay, I guess this is a sign. So I told my parents, I said, I'd really like to learn how to rock climb.
Team Tiger is brought to you by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
We're in Moab, Utah with Kevin Branford, 15-year-old competitive climber.
Tony, come on up!
Where's the elevator?
When I started climbing, there were only 5 gyms in the country, and we did not have one here in the Springs. So if I wanted to learn, I had to go outdoors.
Kevin has earned his stripes, so how about you?
It takes hard work and a good breakfast every day, like one that starts with the sweet crunch of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes cereal.
Let's crank it, Tony!
Going down.
In February of 1992, a gym called the Sport Climbing Center opened. It's called the Springs Climbing Center now, and it specializes in bouldering, but that's where I always tell people I was born and raised there. A lot of my mentors were at the gym, either owners or other people that I got to meet, people that I got to really teach me about climbing and about the art form of being a climber. I don't know that many people would consider it being an art form, but it's truly been a passion of mine for almost 32 years now. I spent the better portion of 10 years competing as a professional athlete.
All right, Mr. Flexibility.
Won the Youth National Championship 6 times. I won the North American Continental Youth Championships.
In the members of the team SCC Sport Climbing Center.
I traveled to the Youth Worlds for the first time in 1995. Yeah, I competed pretty well against the adults, to the point of had to make rules stipulating that youth climbers had to be of a certain age to compete in the open category. And I think that's just because the adults were getting worked by the kids.
Hazana Overhang is a real unique climb. The crux section is only 15 or 20 feet long, but the amount of climbing you're doing is worth a full pitch.
The person who I consider to be my greatest mentor, from a competitive aspect, from a hold sculpture aspect, from a route setting aspect, his name is Tony Yaniro.
Climbing has been called finding the most difficult way of getting nowhere. But as in all sports, the drive for excellence has its own rewards.
The problem with the climb is it's just too big to jam your fists, but just too small to get knees inside to get a good knee jam.
An amazing, amazing mentor in many, many aspects of my life. I've lived with him off and on. I've built gyms with him now. But yeah, he's definitely the person I would consider my mentor. But then right after, almost before I graduated college, I kind of got into route setting. I had learned about route setting from Tony Yaniro. I started learning from him when I was 14. And then I was also able to route set at the Sport Climbing Center. After taking this route setting clinic from Tony and practicing being a route setter, at some point I actually called Tony up, probably close to when I was going into college, and said, hey, I want to learn how to route set at like high-level events. There was a USA Climbing Youth Nationals coming up, and the first one that I set was in Portland, Oregon. At that point, I was sold as a route setter. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
And Megan here, she's a little shorter. Is that going to hurt her on this competition problem?
Not on this problem. Our forerunners are about 5'4", 5'5". We try to set for all sorts of different heights and styles, everything like that.
Oh,
exactly.
Yes, look at that. Different ways to do it.
So I started coaching kind of by happenstance.
Trying to urge her up into that. Incredible for Megan Mascarenas.
A young lady who I had known their family since she was, 3 or 4 years old, running around the gym in a little leotard. At that point, she had already been climbing and competing for a little while. And I got to chatting with her mom, and her mom, Stacy, said, we're really kind of worried about Megan. We want her to keep competing. Come to find out, this young lady, Megan Mascarenas, had already had a couple national titles at this point. She was 11.
Megan Mascarenas and Kira Noguchi are our finalists going through to the Super Boulder here. First of all, we've got the women. Megan Mascarenas.
And she said, we're a little bit concerned because her coach is leaving. He's moving out of town. I don't know if she was, asking kind of in a roundabout way of having me coach, but I kind of thought about it for a moment. And at the time I traveled full-time for work, and I said, I might have a solution.
Basically, I remember Kevin like most of my life. I don't remember the day I met him, except when my mom was like, oh, you should train with Kevin. And I was like, okay, perfect. So I met him at the gym, and he did like a basic analysis, seeing how I climb or what I climbed. And then after that, I just started working with him.
And so we started training together. And I don't think Megan talked to me for like the first month because she was so shy.
Megan going the toe. What a crazy, crazy method. It's worked. Oh my goodness. That's one of the coolest moves I've seen. Megan Mascarenas pushing the buzzer first. She is our Adidas Rockstars Champion 2015. What an amazing effort. She's pushing just to make sure.
So at first I was super intimidated. But once you start talking to Kevin, he's one of the nicest people you ever meet. It was like instantly like, this guy's awesome. So
pretty shortly after I started coaching Megan, I guess the word got out that I was coaching, and I had people call me every couple months and say, hey, I heard you're coaching Megan. Do you have room for another? I have coached a number of athletes, that is correct. I had a young lady named Katie Bone who I spent a year coaching. Her and her brother Drew. They're from Albuquerque, and their mom Tammy would bring them up very frequently.
Outright, we've had a couple others do it in the adult or pro division.
He knew our goals at the time, and he knew how to help us work towards them. And this was when my brother was still climbing as well. And so every time we went out there, he was just super helpful and knowledgeable, and he taught us so much about holds and just climbing and body mechanics, and more than we ever learned from any coaches here in Albuquerque.
I know that there are coaches out there who have a formula. And my formula is more like chaos theory.
Kevin is has a little bit more of a personal touch to it, especially because all the lessons, or like 99% of them, are like private lessons.
So he was able to make it just fun, but also take it seriously when you needed it to be.
So I've worked with a few coaches. I'm coaching myself, and I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on workouts and trying to get stronger, which in some cases I feel like that's super useful. But Kevin would focus more, like almost exclusively, on climbing and problem solving.
I could see being a hold shaper and being a coach being similar, because there's a certain creativity that you have to go through, where you're molding a climber, or you're helping them grow, but you have to be creative in how you do that.
I think working with Kevin has made me appreciate the small things in life. Like when we'd train, he would make me peppermint tea. That seems so small, but it was like something that brought me so much joy, and I looked forward to going to train and like talking to him.
I think as an athlete, he taught me how to really enjoy the sport and why I loved it so much.
One of the things that I would say I specialize in, because I was a competitor, because I'm a route setter, because I'm a hold shaper, is that better than a lot of people, I can identify the things that, the little tiny things that a climber can do to augment, to make their climbing better.
It definitely opened things in my mind that, it made me realize now that I can look at climbs in ways that I never thought I would have before, had Kevin not made me, known, like open to it, I guess, aware to it.
There was a lot of knowledge that he shared and we learned, and whole knowledge that I would not have learned without him.
I would not have accomplished anything I accomplished without him. Both from his support for training and just emotionally. It's like when it was hard, he was always there. I could always talk to him. He was always lighthearted, and yeah, definitely couldn't have done it without him.
If I had everybody that I've ever coached lining up right outside the door, wanting to get back in here coaching, and I could tell them any one thing,
I feel like I took too much credit for my own success, and I wish I would have shown him that he was a bigger part than I could ever put into words for who I am as a person and for climbing.
Just that the time I spent with him in the past was some of the best training I've ever been a part of, and I love to go back and hang out with Kevin because I just love being around him as a person.
I haven't gotten the opportunity to, but I really just want to sit down with him and just thank him for everything that he's done for me.
Thank you. Well, I'm really grateful for shaping me into the person and athlete that I have become, because the last 8-10 years probably would have looked very different.
I think if I could tell them all one thing, is take what you've learned with me and share it. Share it with somebody else.
If Kevin were in the room with you right now, what would you tell him?
I miss you.